Welcome to the ArmaniTalks YouTube channel. I'm your host, ArmaniTalks. In this channel, I'm covering communication skills for you to level up your way with the words, become much more articulate. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing a concept known as becoming your worst enemy. A long time ago, I was reading Bob Iger's autobiography, and I noticed that this guy was the man. I mean, for most of his career as a CEO, more specifically the CEO of Disney, he was seen as a stud. I mean, here is the guy that was able to acquire Pixar, the Marvel Universe, Star Wars. I mean, this guy has such an amazing track record. And the thing with Bob Iger was that when he was becoming the CEO, the previous CEO, Michael Eisner, was being seen as a disgraced individual. Michael Eisner, too, had this elevated rise to the top. Michael was seen as the guy that saved Disney in many ways. He invested a lot in the animation. He started the cruise lines. He invested money in the theme parks. I mean, Michael Eisner was seen as that man. He elevated, but by the time that he was declining in his public perception, many people viewed him as out of touch. They viewed him as that greedy businessman that weren't for the people. So by the time that Bob Iger was coming in, as Michael Eisner was declining, Bob was seen as the man. When I was reading Bob's autobiography, he said that he learned a lot of lessons from Michael to see what to do, but Bob emphasized he learned from Michael what not to do. You could tell from the tone within Bob Iger that he wanted to make sure that he never became Michael Eisner, that corporate businessman, the one that lacked imagination. And for a long time, Bob seemed successful. Bob seemed as though that he was the golden boy of the CEOs until recently. Recently, something has been changing. Bob Iger stepped away. There was a new guy named Bob Chapek that was the CEO of Disney. And suddenly, Bob Iger gets Bob Chapek out of there. Bob Iger is now back. And once he comes back, nowadays, he is not seen as that golden boy anymore. Instead, he's seen in a very negative light. Many people are getting the recent Hollywood strikes, and whenever you have a strike, you need an enemy. Who is the enemy in this scenario with a lot of these actors that are striking? We need some sort of corporate businessman, the actor says. And then the actors realize, wait a minute, what about Bob Iger? I mean, here is Bob Iger clearing all these $1 million bonuses while most of us, we can barely pay rent. Yes, Bob Iger is the enemy. So that is one of the first reasons that Bob is getting criticized a lot because of the recent Hollywood strikes. In addition to that, many people think that Bob is pushing for a wokeness within Disney. In addition to that, many people think that Bob is just a corporate person now. They don't think he's an artist. They don't think he was anyone that was with the trenches. Now that they think about it, they see that Bob Iger, he acquired all these different things. It's bought, not built. Bob, I mean, what does he really do? This is the public perception of Bob Iger nowadays, and I'm hoping he could turn it around. But at this point, what's happening is that Bob Iger, he initially looked at his predecessor and he said, I wish that I would never be like Michael Eisner, the guy that lost touch. But if you look at most people and you ask them about Bob Iger nowadays, they're going to be saying, oh yeah, Bob represents the guy that lost touch. Touch with what? With the public. Bob Iger is now, unfortunately, slowly becoming his worst enemy. And this is something that I've noticed with a lot of individuals. Within certain stages, they pick an enemy and they say that I'm never going to be like that person, only for time to pass by, and they start to resemble the same qualities of that person. The same thing happened to Will Smith. I mean, if you've ever read Will Smith's autobiography, you will see that he had a very polarized relationship with his father. One moment, he loved his father because his father was always showing up. But at another instance, he despised his father because his father preached too much discipline. It's as though Will could never breathe. And Will said, when I become a father, I'm not going to do the same thing. I'm not going to preach that much discipline. So Will, in this scenario, projects his father and says, I'm never going to be like you. Time passes by. Will now becomes a dad. And guess what happens? He sort of becomes like his dad. Will, at this point, is at the peak of his career. He is seen as that Hollywood royalty. And many people are like, well, what does the Hollywood royalty's family look like? And now Will is trying to make sure that his family matches the vision in his head. And if they don't, he is going to enforce discipline until their behaviors match the image in his head. And then Will Smith starts imposing more and more discipline until eventually, one day he realizes that he's imposing too much discipline when his daughter, right after performing a concert, shaves off her head because she wants Will's attention, not his discipline. And that's when Will realizes, oh, whoa, the same person that I was hating on a couple of years earlier, I'm slowly becoming. He is becoming his worst enemy. Now, what is the lesson from this talk of becoming your worst enemy? I believe the lesson is this. You never know where you're going to end up in 5 to 7 years. And one of the easiest things to say is, that will never happen to me. But since you have no clue what will happen in the future, when you're saying that can never happen to me, it can actually happen to you. And if you're someone that moves with that sort of insight in mind, it actually becomes much easier to empathize because you empathize in a way where it's not feeling forced. It's something that is just organic in nature. I think if Bob Iger knew the type of pressure that Michael Eisner was dealing with, and that Michael Eisner was doing his best with what he had at that moment, then Bob Iger would have had a more appreciative tone in regards to Michael Eisner. Because as time is going by, Bob is realizing that what Michael Eisner was going through back then, Bob's going to be going through right now. When we work with that understanding that, maybe we don't have the full picture, we don't understand the stressors that this person is operating with, it becomes much easier to show empathy because who knows? I mean, we're hating on this guy today, but tomorrow we're like this guy. Hopefully not though. I mean, hopefully we learn from their mistakes. And if we end up like that guy, hopefully we realize that this person was not really a villain. This person was just operating the best that they could with what they had. That is the lesson of today's talk. If you enjoyed today's talk, go ahead and drop that like for me right on below. Stay updated with the latest episodes by hitting that subscribe, that bell notification. Never miss another talk again. Thank you very much for joining the ArmaniTalks YouTube channel, and I'll catch you next time.